Now we are to the part of making our mesh head. Or, first of all, this is a rim from a ordinary regular drum head. You just cut the old head off, and we will, as you see, you want it to overlap enough to sew it. And I've used these little clips here to hold it in place to where I can sew it. And when cutting your thread, I always just kind of roll it out around the head and let it overlap, because the thread may break a time or two, and we will just knit this together and sew our head up, and we will be ready to mount it and test it. We now have our mesh head built, sewed up, and as you can see, it's not the best job in the world, and the thread that you want to use will be carpenter's twine, something that's stout. Cotton will break, and it don't have to be real close together. Once you get it sewed around here, you're good to go. And I just trimmed the access around pretty close up to the thread, just leave you just a little bit of space. And we will color this thread, because I didn't have black thread, and you simply use a black magic marker. Okay, now that we have our foam, our plate, and our sheet metal cut out, we need to determine where to put the L brackets within the shell here. And this is how that I'm going to go about doing it. Say for instance you're using yoga mat, and seems like for me 2 layers work the best, or you can use a 1-inch high density foam. It's kind of up in the air with me of how I'm going to go with this. Let me briefly touch on the padding that we use in between the mesh head and the plate. A yoga mat, the only problem that I have with yoga mat is it makes a little more racket than I like. It makes a popping racket for me. It might be because I've doubled it, I don't know. But it triggers better, it is more active, it sounds better when you are playing. To me, the 1-inch regular high density foam, it works well. It's just, to me, got a softer sound to it. Where if you hit the yoga mat, it's just, to me, got a bolder sound. It might be me, but once again, you have adjustments in your drum. Whichever way you decide to go is fine. Like I'm saying, it's up in the air with me. I'm going to try it both ways and determine it from there. But for now, we're going to do the yoga mat because, like I say, I kind of like the way that it sounds with it. So here's what we're going to do on our plate. So in order to determine where to put the set your brackets up for your triggers, you want to make sure it's all clean, and you set your foam in there, which I need to do some trimming, just like you would have it set up with your triggers. The metal plate was set in there, and everything that you will use. And this is just a thinner piece of foam that would be used on the bottom. Some people bolt it solid to the wood. It's whatever your preference is. Okay, now we need to find our L bracket. And kind of set it in there to see where we will put it. And you need adjustment room up and down. So we see this way that there is no adjustment if I set it there. So we'll look and see how it will work by setting it right here. A little too much. So what I'm going to have to do is drill a hole in between these in order to get the space that I want to adjust these. After we get our L brackets in, you want to align the wooden plate up around the corner of the shell, and you want to take a marker and mark where that it will be at. And I've got an X here and an X here. That lets me know that that's where that will set at. So we will drill our holes, get our bolts in there, and get this together. When installing the piezo transducer, there is a number of ways of doing this. This way seems to work best for me. I'm using double stick foam tape, just putting just the little pieces on the ends. The way that the Alesis Nitro kit is, it's got foam all the way around the outside. So naturally it's going to work best for me. Some people can put it right in the center and it works best for them. Some people will take super glue and glue it right up on the metal plate or hot glue. But as I've already said, this way works the best for me. Now we have our trigger built. You look in there and see the piezo transducer. And I just used double stick tape, put a little on the corners, and put the foam in there, and there's the metal plate, and glued it all. Just put little spots of glue around about every 4 inches to hold everything in place. So we will put these triggers in and see what happens. Now on the bracket on this, I will be using the bottom of my old Alesis Nitro kit. I just set it in there and bolted in place. And we will use the jack out of it because it has these little fellers right here on it. And if you don't use those, you cannot adjust it out to balance out right. It will double trigger. It will, oh Lord, it's just terrible. So I'm using this. I will wire it in, bolt it back to this, and bolt that on there, and button it all up. Okay, we are now ready to adjust our head. First we put the front part of the head on and snug it down to basically where you would want it. And then what we do on adjusting the bottom part of the trigger, I just simply put my hand here, push down and give it just a little bit of pressure, and then run the nuts up on the bottom, up snug, and then I will tighten these and lock them down. And that's basically it. Now we have our drum tom completed. As you see, I put the Alesis bottom. See, that way we've got a bracket to mount it up by. And we're using the mesh head. And we are ready to hook this up and try it and see what it does.